Let's kick things off with the basics. What's the real promise behind Bless Network, and how are they positioning themselves in the crowded depend space?
Picture Helium's decentralized wireless, but with an added privacy layer. Bless wants people to share their Wi-Fi or mobile data through devices called Hotspots. In return, users earn Bless tokens. They're branding it as a VPN disruptor with crypto incentives, aiming to replace both traditional VPNs and centralized ISPs.
That's a bold claim, but we've seen similar pitches before. How's Bless carving out its niche compared to earlier networks like Helium or Polygon Mobile?
Great question. First, Bless runs on Polygon, making transactions cheaper than Helium's recent Solana migration. Second, their privacy-obsessed relayed data is encrypted, though there's no audit yet. Third, their tokenomics are aggressive, high early rewards to attract node operators. But their white paper is light on technical details, which raises some red flags for me.
So, we're talking low fees, privacy promises, and juicy rewards, but a lot rides on unverified claims. Let's transition to how these hotspots actually function in practice. Let's get technical. Walk us through the hardware setup. How does a Bless hotspot turn spare bandwidth into crypto?
It's pretty straightforward. You buy a node, currently priced $200, $500, plug it in, and it starts sharing your unused bandwidth. The system tracks how much data you relay, like an Uber for Wi-Fi. As you provide coverage, you earn Bless tokens, with payouts fluctuating based on network demand and token price.
That sounds enticing, especially the early reports of $5.20 a day in rewards. But we know these numbers don't hold forever. What's the sustainability outlook as more users join?
You nailed Italy adopters see higher returns, but as more hotspots come online, rewards dilute. This is a common depend dilemma. Oversupply leads to earnings dropping, likely settling around 2-day long-term. Plus, the team's control of 30% of the token supply adds centralization risk. It's a classic case of race to ROI.
So, it's a mix of potential profits and serious supply risks. Let's pivot to the controversy swirling around Bless because there's no shortage of skepticism in this space. You've hinted at some concerns. Bless calls itself Helium 2. Is that comparison justified? Or are we looking at more sizzle than steak?
Honestly, it feels premature. Helium's network powers real-world applications, think Lime scooters and weather sensors. Bless, on the other hand, is still pre-launch with most partnerships limited to Twitter announcements. Their privacy claims are bold, but without third-party audits, it's mostly marketing.
That's pretty damning. Are there any outright scam indicators? Or is this just a high-risk, high-reward play?
I wouldn't call it an outright scam yet. If they deliver on their privacy promises and land a real telecom partner, there's moonshot potential. But if not, it could end up like so many depend projects, abandoned hardware and empty token wallets. The lack of transparency and external validation is the biggest issue right now.
Given all this, let's move to practical advice. Listeners, take the plunge and purchase a Bless hotspot. Bottom line, is Bless a smart buy for our audience, or should people wait on the sidelines?
If you're comfortable with risk and want to speculate, getting in early could let you flip rewards before the inevitable reward dilution. But for anyone thinking long-term, I strongly recommend waiting for verifiable audits, genuine enterprise deals, and a more stable token economy. Otherwise, you're gambling, not investing.
That's a crucial distinction. Can you compare this risk profile to other depend projects? Maybe Helium or Polygon Mobile?
Sure, Helium's initial hype delivered some real-world value, but even there, node earnings crashed as the network grew. Polygon Mobile faced similar issues, oversupply and shaky demand. Bless is following a familiar playbook, but with extra emphasis on privacy and higher early rewards, both double-edged swords.
Appreciate the candor. Let's tackle some practical questions from our listeners next. First audience question, can I use my old Helium miner to run Bless? Or do I need to buy new hardware?
Unfortunately, Bless requires its own proprietary hardware. Helium miners aren't compatible. The protocols and security requirements differ. If Bless doesn't take off, your device could end up as a high-tech paperweight, just like many early Helium miners now double as space heaters.
Here's another. Is there any way to independently verify Bless's privacy claims, or are we just taking their word for it?
At the moment, it's all trust. No external audit has been published. Until security researchers or third-party firms review the code and network, users should treat privacy claims skeptically. It's wise to wait for more transparency before routing sensitive data through the network.
Great insights. Let's wrap with your final thoughts on Bless's future in the DePIN landscape. Looking ahead, what needs to happen for Bless to move from hype to real-world impact?
First and foremost, third-party audits are non-negotiable to prove their privacy tech. Next, they need at least one substantial enterprise or telecom partnership to show real adoption. Finally, tokenomics should incentivize sustainable growth rather than a pump-and-dump cycle. Without these, Bless risks fading into obscurity like so many DePIN hopefuls.
If they do pull it off, could Bless reshape how we think about connectivity and privacy?
Absolutely, if their model works, it could democratize internet access while giving users more control and privacy, a real alternative to centralized ISPs and VPNs. But execution is everything. Until then, skepticism is healthy and due diligence is a must.
Thanks for keeping it real. To our listeners, stay decentralized, stay skeptical, and we'll catch you next time on DePIN Unplugged.